Hey y'all, Dick Warlock here. I know it might be surprising that I'm actually talking in a video, but, I actually found something interesting to talk about instead of just posting gameplay or a YouTube clip, which I used to do. I've stopped doing that now, because it's pretty unoriginal, and I actually want to start talking about things that I find interesting. And one very interesting thing is Dark Souls 3. It's a very good game, very enjoyable game, very fun, and I like to play it. Here's the thing about Dark Souls 3. It is very well designed bosses. Now, I wouldn't say they're the best bosses that From Software have ever made. I'd say that goes to Sekiro. But I'd say the bosses in Sekiro aren't as well designed. It's mainly due to the combat. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about the perfect example, which is Pontiff Sulyvahn from Dark Souls 3. Now, I think Pontiff Sulyvahn just might be the most well-designed boss in any, I gotta be accurate to the title here. I gotta repeat the title. Gotta drop the title card. I think Pontiff Sulyvahn is the most ingeniously designed boss in any video game. Now let me explain. So, Pontiff Sulyvahn, his whole thing, you walk into the arena, right? And he's a real aggressive guy. Not instantly. You got that slow walk up first, you fucking wait for him to get his lightsaber swords out. After, he walks to you, you hear the music singing, but after those, first 5 seconds, he's on your ass, he's trying to kill you real fast, kind of reminiscent to, Gwyn from the first Dark Souls game, because he's very aggressive, but, he's not just like Gwyn like that. You can parry him, right? And I think a lot of people have just used that to say, oh, fucking Pontiff Sulyvahn's so hard, you can parry. And that's kind of true. That does make him a lot less difficult, but I think that makes the fight better. Here's why. So, if you're good at parrying, his first phase is pretty much a godsend when it comes to bosses. He is fully, sword attacks, fully parryable attacks. Obviously, not all of them are attacks you should be parrying, but he goes through them so fast that you're going to get to one eventually. He's going to raise his sword up real slow and swing it real slow, and you're going to have a nice, fun time swiping his sword out from the air and getting that big old critical hit or repost. That's right term for it. Very sorry. Or if you're just generally good at dodging attacks, you can do it like that, right? It works. But if you're not, if you can't parry, if you're not good at dodging attacks very fast, you're kind of screwed, You're you're in a pretty bad situation, right? So that, regular fight so far, it's fun. It's very fun, good music and all. So you're dodging, you're fighting the guy, you're having a grand old time. Then the second phase comes in. This is where I think I would say it's geniusly designed, because he actually goes through 2 phase transitions here when you really think about it. He goes down on the ground and gets his butterfly wings. Now, this is when I believe I don't believe, I know everything about this game. I've played it a billion million times. This is where he officially introduces his new moveset, where he's able to jump around and do more range attacks. You don't know that at first, because he then immediately goes through a certain other phase transition. Everyone likes to point this out. He summons his fucking anime stand purple guy to fight with him. Now, what might seem obvious at first is, oh, so just everyone's fucked, because obviously people focusing on parrying aren't going to be as good when there's 2 opponents, duh. And obviously people who are bad at the fight at first aren't going to be good with 2 opponents. But here's the thing. Pontiff Sulyvahn, he's a smart guy, he doesn't want to be rushing with you. You got him to half health. He's more passive now. The original player who sucks so much at the first phase is now better. So he and his clone are sort of passively waiting out, going in for range attacks from a distance. Not only that, the clone attacks first, and then Pontiff Sulyvahn attacks with the same attack. You always know exactly what he's going to do. You know where he's going to go. And I think that's pretty damn smart. So you've kind of been sent for a godsend, right? Now think back to that other player who was parrying him, right? Oh, you thought you were so easy. You thought he was so easy, being able to just parry every attack. But now there are two of them, so what are you going to do, right? Not only that, he's not as aggressive now, so there's more time for him to fucking beat your ass, right? Because you get less opportunities to parry him, So, obviously, anyone's reaction here is to kill the clone, because you don't want to be dealing with two opponents, right? No matter what, that's not like dealing with a slower version of Pontiff Sulyvahn is not slower, but more passive, is obviously better than dealing with two Pontiff Sulyvahns, even if the purple one telegraphs his attack. So any reasonable player goes and presumably successfully kills the purple guy in like their third time getting to the second phase, right? Which isn't too hard. He has pretty low health. Now here's where the genius part comes in. Pontiff Sulyvahn immediately goes back to being as aggressive as he was in the first phase, right? So, and not only that, he has more moves. He's better at moving. He's better at, he'll be jumping around. He'll be like shooting you with sword beams. So the original player who was so good at parrying him is essentially doing a regular second phase against a harder boss. The player from earlier who was bad at the first phase, who thought they were so smart by killing the clone, is kind of fucked now, Really think about it. They're just dealing with a harder version of the phase they had so much trouble with, and, they likely die. So here's where the genius part comes in. Now, a lot of people would, if they realize this whole grand equation, they might just say, hey, fuck it, let's just not kill the clone. So, in a sense, you can control the pace of the battle yourself. And that's where the most interesting part of it all comes in. It's all about decision making, not in like your play style, not in if you're decision making and like, oh, do I be aggressive? Do I be passive? No, you're thinking, okay, do I constantly have to adapt to what Pontiff Sulyvahn is doing? Do I constantly like, I gotta kill the clone first because I'm using a fucking pyromancy build and I want to throw my giant fireball somewhere and they happen to kill the clone, right? Do you want to be constantly like going with the flow of the fight? Obviously you're sort of being controlled. You don't have a say in what you're doing, but you never have to do two crazy strategies. Or do you want to control the fight? Do you want to keep the clone alive, right? Or make sure it's always being dead? That makes for way more risky strategies than before. But you're always at the point where you're most comfortable with, well, aside from when you're actively trying to put your plan into motion, right? And that's such a genius way of designing a boss, And I don't see that much games do shit like that. Disappointing, for one. And it turns what could be just a basic fight where you're like, oh, I gotta, fight this aggressive-ass opponent into something more, It's fucking... I'm having trouble explaining it. There's obviously no script here. I'm just improvising, It's all about... You're fighting, you're playing this fucking game of chess. It's all about decision making, with the boss. It's it has much strategy, really, as like a turn-based game, except it's all like quickly putting into motion. You have to think on your feet, you have to be smart and be actually, you know, able to dodge the attacks. That's really genius. It's a fight not just between two guys swinging swords, but between two people, like, changing their strategies between defense and offense in order to fucking survive, in order to get through this battle. It feels not like a boss. Well, it obviously does feel like a boss fight. It is, but it feels very close to like a fight between two people. Not a, well, kind of in the moment, but like, especially thinking about it beforehand, you know? It fits the lore too. Pontiff Sulyvahn's a coward, so of course he'd start backing off and being less aggressive when you start beating the shit out of him. You're fighting not just some AI, you're fighting a human, really. In the moment, it feel like that more than any other fight. I know I'm rambling, but the interesting thing is, Pontiff Sulyvahn ain't even the best fight in the game. I personally argue he's like the second best. I know so many people disagree with that, but, you know, I don't really care about who disagrees with me. You know, I'm putting this out here in the first place. I'm just some fucking kid. No one's gonna watch this video. Who cares? At most I'll get, like, one comment saying, hey, pretty good video, or, like, a threat. You know nothing about game design. How dare you? Which, yeah, I don't know that much about game design. I'm just talking to my ass, and it's pretty damn fun. I feel like I'm right, and so I'm talking, because I want to. But, you know, it doesn't make him the best fight, because he's ingeniously designed, but he is damn good. So, moral of the story, if this game had fucking Sekiro's combat, and there is still a fight as ingeniously designed as Pontiff Sulyvahn in there, it'd be the best boss fight of all time. That's pretty much it. Bye guys. Thankfully I finally made a good video. I know it took me fucking 2 years. Bye.